at about 10, 11 years of age, got invited to Newcastle's Centre of Excellence, which is basically what the academies are now. After playing for my school team and the city team, Wallsend Boys Club. And we used to train 3 nights a week there. Sometimes play games on a weekend. And then when I got to approaching 14, they offered us a chance of signing schoolboy forms, which is the earliest you could sign then. And at that time, they'd done something they hadn't done before. They give us a contract offer to the age of 21, so they give us 2 years as a schoolboy. 1 year was a YTS scheme then, apprenticeship basically, to my 17th birthday, and then a 4-year professional contract. So this is something they hadn't done at Newcastle before that. Obviously in the lead up to that as well, there was obviously other clubs who were interested that came to the fore. I mean, I remember sitting at home in Walker, where I was born and bred, on the banks of the Tyne there, growing up. My dad was a dry liner, worked Monday to Friday, 12-hour shifts, so Saturday and Sunday was his weekend off, in terms of going to the social club and having a few pints over the Saturday and Sunday. But on the Saturday as well, he was sitting at the table one Saturday morning, and he's having his full English breakfast. He's got egg yolk all down his string vest, the paper, the journal up against the teapot where he's reading it, where he's eating. And there was a knock at the door. My mum went and answered the door. She came in, she says, "Bob, you need to go and speak to someone at the door." And he went to the door, and I heard him just say, "You'll have to come in, you'll have to speak to him." So he called us into the front room, and Dad's sitting there as well. He's got bedhead, with the yoke on his vest, as I said. And I went into the front room, and it was Sir Alex Ferguson, asking us if I'd be interested in going to sign for Man United. So I'm not sure my dad created the right impression, or he might have, because offered us a fair few quid. They must have thought we're well short of a bob or two. So, but I just, as my dad always said with anything like this, he said it was up to me. And after I'd first gone to watch Newcastle as an 8-year-old in 1980, and I didn't think I could ever become a professional footballer. I didn't understand what it took, but yeah, I was given the chance. So there was only one place I wanted to go, and that was Newcastle, and that's what I told Sir Alex at the time. Thank you, but no thank you. So I ended up signing for Newcastle.
Who were your heroes growing up?
Oh, well, as I said, my first game was 1980. And if anyone was, I was going to say lucky, but it's probably unlucky to have witnessed the team from the 80s. 1980, Bill McGarry's team. We had a front two of Bobby Shinton and Billy Rafferty. And they weren't exactly anything special. Actually, I've got a great story that leads on to that. So, we'll fast forward a few years. I'm manager at Birmingham City, and we win a game at home, and I'm over in the boardroom having a glass of red wine, celebrating with a few of the English directors who were there at the time. And this guy came up to us and said, started chatting away, and he was speaking a lot about Newcastle. I was from there, my time at the club, and was asking us different questions. And I said exactly the same as what I've just said to you. I said, yeah, my first game was 1980. Bill McGarry was manager. We didn't have a very good team. We had a front two of Bobby Shinton and Billy Rafferty, who were fucking useless. And the guy then leant across the table and gave us his hand. He says, "Nice to meet you, Lee." I says, "Nice to meet you." He says, "I'm Billy Rafferty." So I didn't finish the glass of red wine. I just got out of there, because he's actually quite a big guy, and I've heard since that he's quite a handful as well. So I made a short fucking exit out of that boardroom that night, I tell you. But my heroes, a couple of years further down the line, when King Kev came the first time around and came to play, and we had the team of the promotion season that year, The front three of Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley ably assisted behind them with Terry McDermott and all the other good lads that were part of that team as well. It takes all kinds to make it, and you know, from that day when I first seen Peter Beardsley, he was obviously, Kevin was the pin-up. Everyone worshipped him for what he'd done for Newcastle, but Peter was always the player that I looked up to and was a hero of mine. So, you know, however many years, was it 13, 14 years later, when I had the chance to play alongside him, it was a bit surreal. Not great for Peter, mind, it shows his age, but no, great for me. So I would probably say the first one would have been Peter. Enjoyed watching Waddle and obviously that team then, but yeah, Peter was the standout player.
What position were you playing as a youngster?
It varied. I mean, midfield was always my position, but sometimes in an emergency, players and attackers. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes in the youth team, me and Steve Howie were the front two, so it just showed you, like, I ended up being midfield and Steve Howie was centre half, and it was funny. I think it was doing the one with you with Ozzy Ardelis one night.
Yeah, a few years ago.
We were doing it a few years ago, and this guy said Ozzy said, "Hey, Ozzy, it was a master stroke that you moved Steve Howie from being a centre forward to centre half. You must have seen something special." And he says, I won't try and do his accent, but he just says, "No, not really." He says he was just fucking shit as a centre. And I think that was him being honest, basically. So yeah, so he said it wasn't so hard.
Who gave you your debut, and who was your debut against?
My debut, 1990, 17 years of age, Bristol City away, and the late Jim Smith was the manager. I'll always be indebted to that, allowing me to do something that thousands of others, Geordies, black and whites, would have loved to have done. I was living the dream. Jim was proper old school manager. Tough. I mean, we had a lot of senior players. He had like an older group of players, you know, John Burridge, Mickey Quinn, Mark McGee, Kevin Dillon, Roy Aitken, Ray Ranson, all these type of guys, you know. So when I was in amongst them, it was good. But Jim was mad. Jim was the original throw the teapot, throw the cups. The weekend after was my full debut against West Bromwich St James's, and I had to wear my own suit for the home games. It was a tracksuit to wear in the away games. So when I get in the dressing room at St James's, all the senior lads are getting ready, and they took their suits off and they put like a towel over their suit, and I thought, what must you do when you become an established player? So I thought, I've not done anything yet. It's only my second game. I'll not bother putting a towel, which was a big mistake, because I quickly realised at half time when Jim was throwing the teapot, which was basically to protect your suit from getting tea stains all over it. So my $29.99 full outfit from C&A got wrecked. And the rest of the lads just had a little wry giggle at that. So yeah, great. When I was a young player, I was a little bit frightened of him, Jim, because as I said, it's no school. I seen him a few years later, and you know, I spoke to him actually when I was leaving Newcastle, and when he was manager at Derby in the Premier League. So yeah, it was a chance, but I'll always be indebted to him for allowing me to live the dream.
Got to ask you about John Burridge. I mean, you know, a lot of stories about John. He had a lot of clubs. He came back to Newcastle not once but twice, but 3 times. He came back to play for Kevin as part of the entertainers in those early days. But what was he like? Because you say Jim Smith was a bit of a character, but he was as well, wasn't he, Budgie?
Oh, he's absolutely mad, Budgie. I mean, thankfully I never got to have to share a room with him on the away trip. Steve Watson did the night before his debut, and you couldn't wish to want to have two personalities so far apart. What was like, because I ended up sharing too much to spell together, sharing a room with Watto, and Watto was into this WWF shit that was going about at the time. He would sit up till 2, 3 in the morning watching that the night before a game, and I'd be feeling like 4 o'clock in the morning getting a body slam where he's practicing one of his drops on us or whatever. And where Budgie's like night before a game, lights off at 9 o'clock, telly off. But I remember him after Watto's first trip, sitting with Watto at breakfast the next morning. He's like, I've just had the worst night of my life. And I was like, what's happening? He's like, he fucking gave us a bag of oranges and said, like, just throw them at us and I've got to dive off the bed from the oranges during the course of the night. And he says, so I'm like sitting there like a fucking donut, just throwing oranges around. And I said, all right. He says, then I had to turn the telly off at 9 p.m. and that. And he's like, Ed, he's like, aye. He says, fucking, I never got to sleep till like 2 in the morning, but I was eating mobiles an hour like that then as well. So, but Budgie, it was funny. I had a little spell overseas managing, and I had 6 months in Oman, and we were playing a game against an opponent, and I was doing a team talk with the help of an interpreter because a Geordie in Oman was never going to work, and a fucking door burst open in the change room, and it was fucking Budgie. He was the goalie coach of the opposition, and he was 70 odd, looked fit as a fiddle still, and he's like, Clarky, how are you? And I'm like, Budgie, I'm trying to do a team talk, yeah, mate. And, it was different class. I mean, it was great to see him after all the years, but absolute fruit loop, but great lad. I mean, we used to be training at Maiden Castle then as well, so it was a council-owned training facility, so it was open to the public, and the students used to come and use it for various different other sport and stuff, squash and badminton and stuff like that. And so, you know, we'd often be sharing changing rooms with, like, you know, the public, and Budgie used to have this thing, like, is it a diffuser or something on the hair dryer that gets his hair curly, but stand like doing that, just bollock naked, and there's just like students walking around and that, and you're thinking, man, fucking hell, what's going on? So yeah, strange but great guy.
Jim Smith gave you a debut, but he didn't last long, did he? And the new manager came in. Who was the new manager?
Yeah, Ozzy came in after Jim, and Ozzy was brilliant for all us young players. He gave us great belief. He had lots of faith in us. The club didn't have a lot of money then as well. I mean, I don't know how many Newcastle fans know this, but and he's held in high esteem. David Kelly was actually only brought to the club when I mean Newcastle, because Ozzy Ardealers originally bought David out of his own pocket, £200,000 his transfer fee. Ozzy gave Newcastle United an interest-free loan to make that deal happen. So the day he got sacked, he got his severance pay and his 200 grand loan as well. So yeah, so you know, he was a big one for all us. Great guy, still one of the best players in training. Give us all great belief. He was a great manager, just probably at the wrong time. But some great stories, you know, love talking about Maradona and stuff like that. And you know, some of his stuff. Remember we were playing Barnsley away in the Championship, and we used to go out and have a look at the pitch, and then when we arrived at the ground, and come back and then get changed and decide what type of footwear we're going to be using, small studs or the longer studs. And we came in, and the pitch wasn't that great, and Ozzy came in the dressing room and he went, obviously a bit of very bubbly. And I like must have looked like that, like had like some kind of look in my eyes, and he said, what the fuck's the matter, Clarky? You not understand English? And I just said, oh no, it's alright, Ozzy, yeah, fine. And I didn't have a fucking clue what he really said. So. But it was a great guy. I mean, as I said earlier, me and you done something with him. I still keep him in high regard. He's a good friend of mine, still speak to him regular. Yeah, he was great for us, but unfortunately, when he moved all us youngsters into the team, there was a little bit of naivety about us, so we'd play well for an hour of a game and then ultimately lose it in a high scoring game or draw it. And that's why we're going down the division, and they needed someone to come and rescue the club and you know, stop us, one, getting relegated from the Championship, and then two, to take us back to, or take us into the Premier League, which was just starting to be formed.
There was a lot of politics going on off the pitch, the battle for United, the Magpie group. Did that affect the players? Did it affect you?
It had an outside effect, and I'll tell you how it did have an outside effect. Going back a little bit on the story, obviously I was playing for my school, Benfield. I was playing for Newcastle City schools team. I was playing for Wallsend Boys Club. I was playing for Northumberland schools, and I was playing for Northumberland Boys Club as well. And then at 15, I got the chance to be England schoolboy captain, and so I had 10 fixtures over that season. 2 at Wembley, 1 against Brazil in front of 82,000, 1 where I scored, 1 in front against Italy at Wembley in 82,000, where I was lucky enough to score a hat-trick. Go to Germany, go to Italy, and play these areas. So I was then starting to get a bit of interest, not just locally but nationally. And Gordon McKeague was the chairman and the board of directors, just a group of local businessmen. They didn't have a lot of money, and during that season, Kenny Dalglish was manager of Liverpool. This was 1987. They offered £250,000 for me at 15 to go and sign for Liverpool. Gordon McKeague called my dad up. We went up to the boardroom. My dad wore shirt and tie this day, not his eggy yolk vest. And Gordon basically said I had to go. If not, the club would have probably folded because of financial irregularities. And as my dad had said to Ferguson, you need to ask him. And I was like, no, I've started my dream. I hope it can become a reality. So I decided I wasn't going to. But what was happening at that time as well was the Magpie group was starting to form, and they got wind of this. So people like John Moff, Malcolm Dix, Peter Radcliffe, they came to see me and my dad and said, listen, we're not sure how long it's going to take. It might be a year or 2, 18 months, but the club will be bought. The new owner has big plans. It's not going to. There's no chance of it going bust. Whatever they're saying to you, just sit tight. You don't have to go. And thankfully, they were proved right. So John then sent this group of guys out, and he purchased most of the shares from the fans who owned them at the time, and the board of directors of that time, and bought the club. And thankfully, he did, because there was no pressure on me anymore then to think that I was the one. That was the reason where they could raise some funds to try and save the club. It was a tough one to have as a 15-year-old, to think that was on my shoulders. But so thankfully it didn't have to come to that, you know.
Mm. You got on well with Ozzy. Was it a shock when the news broke that he'd been sacked?
Yeah, I was good. I loved him. Well, I think we all did. All the young players loved working for him. But ultimately, it's Woes and is a results-driven business, and Sir John had took over. He had huge plans for the club, which he was never shy of telling people, and he made the decision, and he made the best decision that could ever have happened when he brought Kevin back for the second time. And everyone I've just told about 82 when he came as a player. I'm not sure even his biggest fan thought he could not only repeat what he'd done in the early 80s, in the 90s with us, but even surpass that. But he actually did. So it was a masterstroke by Freddie Fletcher, Douglas, and John Hall, and Freddie Shepherd to bring Kevin out of the wilderness. Kevin had just gone back to live in Marbella, play golf. So it was a masterstroke.
You were still relatively young then. What was the talk amongst the senior pros about Kevin coming in? Were people thinking, well, he's not experienced? You've just said he was playing golf for 7 years. He hadn't been a manager before.
No, because there wasn't any time to settle. The media reaction was huge. This was the superstar footballer of his era, and he was adored at Newcastle. So there wasn't any time for anyone to have any negative thoughts, because he came in, he just hit the ground running. He set out that obviously the first thing that had to be done was just keep us in the league, and then go from there, and that's what happened. So I can't recollect of any sort of negativity around the club I think the players were worried because they knew that because of his personality, he'd demand high standards, and if people weren't reaching those, they'd just be automatically replaced. So I think it was more of a fear factor than anything else, really.
Did he speak to you personally?
He did, because obviously I was the young player and I was the one being talked about quite a bit. You know, said that initially he wanted to go with experienced players, but if I sat tight and would be patient, things could happen for us, and with being a local lad, that I could achieve things at the club that I probably undreamed of. And he was 100% right. I mean, he's that good at reading things. I ring him up every Friday morning now to ask him what lottery numbers to put on. So I think he's getting a bit pissed off with us, actually, to be honest, because he's trying to change them so I can win the lottery. But yeah, so that was, I think he made such an impact straight away in everything that he's done, his man management, how he tread people, how he made you feel unbelievable. So yeah, that was a positive.
What was the typical Kevin Keegan training session like?
Kevin would join in. Terry sometimes would join in, put much on the sides. Derek Fazakli would take it all. We never done anything working on the opposition. We never practiced a set play. He just said, you're the best players in your position, go out and play, and that was it. We never spoken about an opponent, about an individual. And it was just about us. It was about him believing in the players he had. What he was unbelievable at, and I think Eddie's followed a little bit in his way, was he recruited. His signings were fantastic. They always improved the team. He built a squad unbelievably, put all the pieces together. And as I said, every signing that he made improved the team, improved the squad, so then the standard of the training went up. We all had to improve with that, if not, we'd go by the wayside. And that's the way it was. It was, I mean, the only real time he talked about, he didn't actually talk about an opponent in this one, but it was basically trying to be a little bit pragmatic. Was my first foray into Europe under him when we played Antwerp when Rob scored the hat-trick, Rob Lee. And he said to it before the game, him and Terry sat down and he said, right lads, none of you have got this experience. Me and Terry have played a lot of European games. When you play away from home, you've got to keep things tight, you've got to settle it down, you've got to numb the crowd, quiet the crowd. And he says a draw's a terrific result away from home. Then obviously, if you can remember in the game, Rob scored the hat-trick, I think 5-0. What was 3 or 4 up at half time, and we won 5-0. And Kevin came in afterwards and he looked at Terry and he says, Terry, what did I tell you? They never fucking listen. So, and that was it. That was the only time I can remember us trying to say anything like that. It was always about us, the team, the individuals, the players we had, and what he believed in us. And so it was about, for him, it was his recruitment and his man management that made him so special.
There was a time against Swindon, I think, when Kevin just upped and left. Terry McDermott ended up chasing down the motorway. Yeah, what did the players make of that? Because I remember the interview we did outside his house saying it wasn't what it said on the brochure.
Yeah, it was this was before the promotion season, wasn't it? And Kevin was starting to get a bit frustrated by what was happening and what had been promised supposedly and what was being delivered. But Kevin was like that. He wore his heart on his sleeve. I mean, I remember... I'm not that bad, mate. I've only started 20 minutes. He's fucking off already. It gets better, you know. So I've lost my train of thought now.
Swindon, Keegan.
And so in the promotion season, if you remember, we won promotion and the league at Grimsby on a Tuesday night. And on the way home, Kevin we stopped in every bar and hotel where we're seeing some Newcastle fans outside the yellow away strip or the black and white strip. So we never got home at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. We'd had a right skin full of drink. But we had a game on the Thursday to catch up, an extra game against Oxford.
Yep.
At home. And obviously we'd had a skin full. He'd give her the Wednesday off. We reported for the game at St James's. We came in at 1-0 down at half time. And to be honest with you, in the warm-up, I was seeing 5 fucking footballs. I was so pissed. And he came in and he said, well, that's a fucking joke, that's a disgrace. You're shortchanging, and he pointed to the roof, which meant to the stand. You're shortchanging the fans. He was all for the fans. It was about them. We had to do everything we had for them. This was how the team was built, and rightly so. It was everything we had to do for the support we were getting. And he says, in fact, yeah, you're fucking shortchanging them. He says, it's not good enough. He says, in fact, that's it. I've had enough. I'm fucking going home. And he fucking got in his car and drove back to Wynyard at half time. And we ended up beating them 2-1. Me and Coley scored. I scored a 25-yarder. I thought I was doing a cross, but it went in the top. And we beat them 2-1. And we came in afterwards, and Terry had to do the press, and Terry just said, I'd said to the press, oh yeah, he got a phone call, his wife wasn't very well, so he had to get off home, but he hadn't, he just was pissed off with our performance, so he just fucked up. Imagine that now. And then he came in the next day if nothing happened. Then obviously we had the famous Leicester game on the Sunday where we just 7-1, yeah, so brilliant times, and that's just the way he was, you know.
Talk about that, because that game was surreal, wasn't it? 6-0 up at half time, 7-1. You know, Coley'd come in towards the back end of the season and started banging the goals in. I mean, it was amazing. And just a little mention as well about Pavel, because I think it was you and was it your brother who
got him the t-shirt. Yeah, Pavel has a Geordie t-shirt. God rest his soul. Yeah, that's a real sad part, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was such a great man at such a young age. We loved him. He was such a popular guy. Such a very popular guy. Nobody had a bad word to say about Pav. But yeah, that game, as you said, was just surreal. The thing a lot of people don't realise is that Leicester team were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They weren't like a duffer of a team. They were a good team in the Championship. And we just blew them away and was 6-0 up with half time. Ned, David Kelly and Coley got a hat-trick in it, and we just wiped the floor with them. I remember they'd done an interview, because it was live on TV, on ITV. They'd done an interview with Sir John at half-time, and he'd obviously had a few sherbets, hadn't he? And he'd said, right, man, you, whoever, we're coming to get here, we're going to get in Europe. And probably everyone around the country thought, who's this fucking idiot? They're probably laughing at him. But he backed himself. He backed his manager with funds, and he allowed it to happen. You know, they developed the stadium, and everything went from there. But that game was just absolutely crazy. I remember it as well because the day before I'd allowed David Kelly to cut my hair stupidly. I mean, I had a skinhead, but I used to leave it on a number 3, possibly sometimes a 2. And I said, and I knew there was after the game on the Sunday, the last game was on the Sunday. There was a few awards dinners, and I'd won North East Sports Writers Player of the Year, and the do was at a hotel in Durham, so I had to go there and Dickie Bow and all that. And I says, oh fuck, I've got this do tomorrow afterwards. My hair's too long, and then we had the bus thing on the Monday. Then we're flying straight in Cyprus on the Tuesday, so I didn't have any time. And I was like, fuck, I'm not going to get my hair cut. And Ned says, my missus is a hairdresser, and I've got clippers in the car. And I was like, I can do it. And I was like, great. So he sits us down, there's no mirror, he sits us down in the dressing room, and he says, what do you want? I says, do it at 2. Go on, do it at 2. And he started to cut me hair, and I got up and I went into the bathroom where the mirror was. Well, he'd put a fucking 0 blade on it, and it was like fucking yours. Then next day, my mum was in the ground watching the warm-up with my brother, and she was like, is Lee injured? Where he's not out? And my brother went, there he is there. And she went, my God, look at his hair. Is he ill? Is he ill? And as I said, I came in after the game. She was like, "Are you all right? Are you, everything good?" I said, "Oh yeah, what's up now?" "Well, you look ill." And I was like, "Oh, it's him." She went across in the players' lounge and give David Kelly a bollocking for
It's not over, but we don't.
Aye. Great. So, happy days. Unbelievable.
That summer we saw the money spent. There was players came in, there was players went. Were you shocked to see, David Kelly and Gavin Peacock leave? Gavin went for personal reasons, but David went because there was a big player coming in.
Yeah, that was a shock because David was the top goal scorer on the championship that year, and he was not just a great goal scorer, Ned. He had a great work ethic. He was very influential in the team. He was a great lad in the dressing room, really popular. We done a thing a few months ago. Had an anniversary of that team, 30 years on, and we got up in pairs and threes to chat about things with Kevin. And Mickey Quinn and Ned were the two who got up together, and that was an interesting one because obviously Kevin's older, both of them, and their stories were brilliant. So I'll do Quinny's first. Quinny was obviously the goal scorer around Ozzy and Jim, but when Kevin come in, he played a little bit of a bit part role, but he was still scoring goals when he got the chance. And so a couple of games into the promotion season, Quinny wasn't playing, he was just getting the odd minute here and there, but when he was coming off the bench, he was notching. So he knocks on Kevin's door, he's like, "Gaffer, what's the crack?" He's like, "I want to play, I need to play." And he's like, "Don't worry, Quinny, we need the squad, your chance will come. Once you're there, just keep banging the goals in and you'll stay in the team." A couple of weeks later, that same thing's happening. He's not starting, he's coming up the bench, he's getting a goal, and he's coming up the bench, goes in to see Kevin, basically the same conversation. "Just stay patient, please." Kevin's saying to Quinny, he's like, "It'll happen." Ned gets an injury, Quinny comes in, starts the game against his old club, Portsmouth, he scores 2 and plays really well. Ned's fit. A couple of weeks later, Quinny's back out of the team. These are Quinny's words. He says, "I didn't even fucking knock on his door this time, I just took it off the hinges." He says, "I went in to see Kevin, I said to him, 'Gaffer, fuck me, man, I don't know whether I'm coming or going.' He says, 'You're fucking going, I've so made a point.'" And then with David Kelly, it's obviously championship top goal scorer. Kevin rings him up and says, "Ned, where are you?" And he says, I'm just packing the car up. I'm driving back down the Midlands with the missus and the kids. We're going to see the family." He says, "Pop into the ground. I've got your golden boot for the championship. They want to take some pictures." So he, en route to driving from the northeast to the Midlands, he goes to see the gaffer and get his golden boot. And Ned says he'd get a few pictures taken, and the gaffer gives him the golden boot and he gives him an envelope, and Ned's thinking, "Fucking hell, what a manager, he's giving us a fucking bonus for this." He says, "I opened the fucking envelope," and he says it was an official letter saying he'd fucking sold us the Wolves for £750. So it was, as I said, he was ruthless, obviously. When Ned was sold, with that signalled the return of Peter, and I've just spoke our thought of Peter since playing alongside him and what he done second time round as well. I'm in no doubt people might disagree. I mean, I know obviously Alan's got the goal scoring record and done some wonderful things, but for me, Peter is the best ever player to wear a black and white shirt. So for us to bring him back second time round was a brilliant signing for the football club. And as you said, the signings were made, we kept continuing to improve the team and improve the squad, and that's what Kevin was the master of.
It all led to that big year, 95-96, where we were, leading the Premier League by 12 points against Manchester United, and it's a season which is tinged with a bit of sadness for every Newcastle fan, but more for you players. You went through it. I mean, yeah, the big question, which I guess there's no answer to, is why didn't we win the league that season?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got all the dust accumulating in the trophy cabinet where I should have had the fucking Premier League winners medal.
Yeah,
and that was my big chance of winning something. I mean,
your lad's got one now.
The little fucker, yeah. invited us into the house. I went down to see him about 2 or 3 weeks after the final. I went down to see him and he says, "Oh, come in. So I've got something for you." And he put the medal around my neck and he took a photo. He says, "That's what it feels like to win a bit." So, yeah, give him a kick up the arse. Yeah, I mean, listen, for us to be that far clear that season, we're playing some inspirational football at the time. I joke that the reasons why we didn't win it was bringing David Batty in for the last 9 games and leaving me out because things were cruising up until then. So, yeah, there's various. Listen, the bottom line was there's lots of reasons. One, we didn't have the experience Man United had. They had players who'd experienced that, they understood what the business end of the season was about. We didn't have that. We hit bad form at the wrong time. Those last 9 games, we couldn't really string many results together, and yeah, it was a tough one to take when you're so far clear come the end of February. And when you think the Premier League, if you take away like clubs that have won it on a consistent basis, like your Chelseas and your Arsenals and Manchester Cities, and then you've probably Man United as well during my era. Then you've got Blackburn and Leicester, and obviously Liverpool have won it once. So there's not a lot of players that have won the Premier League, and we could have joined that elite band of players. And I think if we had done that as well, we would have then kicked on to start winning more and more things as well. Mm-hmm. The rest would have followed, but unfortunately it didn't. And it's amazing how still highly we're thought of, even though a team that finished second. And I think that says a lot about the club. But I hope in the not too distant future the team that's getting assembled now can be that team that breaks that record of being the first one to win silverware since '69, without a doubt.
Mm. Yes. Following season, Kevin leaves, and it's a big shock. Was it a big shock to you, like everybody else?
It was a big shock. I mean, I've got to say at the time, we played Charlton at home, Charlton away in the FA Cup at the Valley, and Kevin wasn't his usual bubbly self. We knew something was happening. We knew he wasn't, as I said to you earlier on in the night, he wore his heart on his sleeve, so you understood what was happening. He didn't have to tell you really, and we thought something was up. He was, as I said, he even came back on the coach after the game. We drew the match, and then the next morning we got into training. Terry McDermott and Arthur Cox held a meeting and said that Kevin had quit, and we were gutted. We were shocked. We were gutted. You know, here was a man that we'd worked with for so long. We'd had a strong relationship, not just as player-manager relationship, but on a friendship basis as well. A great man for us all, and yeah, we were losing our lead, and it was where do we go to next, really.
We went to Kenny Dalglish. I mean, he's not really fondly remembered amongst Newcastle fans, but you know what? He seems to be like a player's favourite. A lot of the players speak very highly of Kenny. Was he just unlucky because obviously he came in, he was following Kevin. It was always going to be difficult.
It was, and as you said, in front of the camera and the public domain, Kenny is a completely different person that he is in private. With us, the lads, he was brilliant. He was, tactically very good in terms of his management side. He managed things a bit different. He spoke about the opposition, which Kevin never really done or never done. But he'd been there, seen it, done it with both Blackburn and Liverpool. So, and he was a great guy. He was funny, witty, and I had loads of respect for him. So, that first year of his, when we basically that last game of the season, when the results went for us and we got an important win in the last game to get second place again, to get us in the Champions League, it allowed him to, try and kick on the next season. But unfortunately, with the exception of the Barcelona night at St James's, it didn't particularly work out very well, and he was moved on. But I know for a fact he really enjoyed it. He was desperate to do well, It just wasn't to be, as you probably pointed out, which has happened at Man United with Ferguson. Sometimes it's difficult to replace someone who's done so well, I think, and that might be the situation that happens at Liverpool the coming years as well. So he was a great guy. I've got nothing bad to say about Kenny. It just wasn't to be, like you said.
Let's finish the first half on a couple of funnies. Just some of the players you brought in at Newcastle. Tino Asprilla.
Yeah, Tino was a one-off funny. Tino, great guy. As I said, bought into the club, bought into the lads. We loved him to bits. Absolute madman. A couple of instances. We had a sponsorship deal where all the players. There was a big deal with Rover cars at the time, and all the players would get supplied with a car and get them changed every 4 months. So we used to get a new car 3 times a year, and we used to change amongst the players the different models. So we'd go across the full model range. We had this big photo once at St James's to confirm this, all the players and all these cars. And Tino then on this day decided he was going to start driving for himself instead of his interpreter driving for him anymore. So if you remember, before the Glass Atrium was all there, it was the Milburn stand, and then you went out to the car park down where the big Newcastle gates were, across Barrack Road. So we're all getting pictures taken, and then Tino gets the car keys, and Tino's the first one to leave. So he pulls out the car park. So obviously went to go across Barrack Road, and you just hear this almighty bang. And then 30 seconds, a minute later, you just see Tino walking back, and he's got a set of keys, and he goes, "Tino need new car." So he drove the car off in 30 seconds or something. And then the second one, he'd been away on international duty with Colombia, and the 2 meeting places at the training ground was in the physio's room and upstairs in the canteen. The lads used to have a little bit of banter with each other before training, after training, and they were the 2 meeting points. And this morning I've gone in the medical room, and Tino was lying on one of the medical tables, face down beds, and he had a big gash in his calf. And I went, "Oh, Tino, bad tackle in the game for Colombia?" He went, "No, Nashki, bullet wound." And I went, "Bullet wound?" I went, "Tino, come on, man. You need to be careful. Don't get yourself involved in nonsense like that. You'll get dropped from the national team." He went, "No, Nashki, me and Pablo Escobar picked the national team."
You had a big Belgian there as well, Philippe Albert.
Great guy. The first time we met Philippe, we didn't meet him at the training ground. The first Saturday pre-season, we used to go out in town in Jesmond, then in town, all the lads, every single player, have a few, bite to eat and a few drinks, get everyone together again. And Philippe was signing on the morning, and then the first time we seen him was he came into the pub in Jesmond to meet with. And we realised then he was one of us. He was drinking pints of Stella like they were going out of fashion. So a few months down the line, he comes into training and he says to me, it was me and Steve Watson sitting, and he says, "Nashki, how do I get to Edensburg?" And I says, "Edensburg, where's that?" He says, "In fucking Scotland." I says, "Edinburgh." He says, "Yes, you thick Geordie cunt." I said, "You were the one who said Edensburg." And then David came, the king, and we're playing pre-season. We played a club. It's now closed. It's finished. Russian and Diamonds went to open their new stadium. They had ambitions of getting into the Football League. They were owned by a guy who owned Dr. Martens. So we turned up, the big hitters from Newcastle, and he gave a pair of Dr. Martens each to wear. The joke was, after a few months, the lads thought Warren Barton was wearing them when he played. So on the way back from Russian and Diamonds, David comes down the bus and he says, "Oh, he was living in the Gosford Park Hotel before he found a house, and he was living in there, and he said, 'Fancy going out tomorrow for a bit of food and some drinks. As you can imagine, me and what were always there for the social. We said, yeah, we'll come and pick you up. So we picked them up from the Gosforth Park, took them down to the 3 Mile Inn pub in Gosforth, and basically we had a few drinks. This was about 1 o'clock, 1:30. Got up about 4 o'clock. David says, right guys, thank you for a great afternoon. That's it. I'm off back to the hotel. I'm going to go in the swimming pool, have a sauna, steam, swim, jacuzzi, just relax. And me, what is it? No, David, it doesn't happen like that in Newcastle. Once you're out, you're out. You stay out till you drop. And he's like, really? And we're like, yeah. So we takes him into town. Me and Watto have got the bottles. Remember the years ago when you used to bang each other's bottle and it would fizz? And me and Watto are doing that, and he's looking as if to say, fuck me, what if I joined you? And we had a full-on session. And then the next day we were in, it's obviously still pre-season, so we had a tough running session. And long distance running, me and Watto right up at the front. We looks back and David's at the back, stopping every 30 seconds, trying to like bring up whatever it was. And I remember him doing an article of about 5 or 6 years ago saying he knew we'd come to a different challenge when he first turned up in English football and 2 young players took him out, full night on the drink, but then we're at the front of the running while he was So, but you know, when they used to, I used to get questions like when I was playing alongside him. It was funny. All of it did, and it was basically the same answer. And it was like, you know, you seem to have like this rhythm together that you always know what each other's going to do. And I said, well, it was quite simple. I says, because when you went on a night out with David, he was such a good-looking guy, and you know, 6'2", physique like a Greek god, looked fantastic. He had that many women around him, all us wannabes, who the women were nowhere near. We just used to hang around David for his knockdowns and we'd get them. So that's why we were always close to him on the pitch. It was just second nature.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the first half. Put your hands together for Lee Clark.
Very famous owner, Mohammed Al-Fayed, who used to say he owned a corner shop in London, but I'm not sure how many people sell a corner shop for 3 billion, but that's another story. He was eccentric, to say the least. I mean, there was many occasions, big crazy things happening. I mean, I should have realised as I was doing my medical after I agreed, the fee had been agreed for us, I agreed my personal terms. I was doing the medical in Harrods as its own hospital, so basically I was 3 days in Harrods doing my medical, and the final part of it was the weigh and the fat test and all that to make sure everything was right. So I was bollock naked on the scales, and it was the day of the famous Harrods sale, and when he'd done that, he always got a celebrity in, you know, a proper celebrity, not these reality stars that you've got now. And this day happened, and this year's Harrods sale, his celebrity that he had, it'll be a woman that obviously the older generation will know was an actress called Sophie Loren. It was stunning, yeah. And as they walked by, I'm bollock naked, and he just backslapped me arse. There was a few ripples. And said to her, oh, that's my new signing for my football club. So he has a lad from Pottery Bank in Walker, bollock naked in front of Sophie Loren. I'm not sure there's many Walker lads can say that. So, yeah, that was the start. Another one was we played a famous game in the Premier League. We won 2-1 with a late goal against Wigan, and we came into the dressing room. We had a midweek game, so we were in the wet area of the dressing room, which is where like ice baths and all that are happening, where we're getting ready and recovering for the game coming up in a couple of days later, so we can get recovered quickly. You know, there's ice baths, there's all the different type of treatment with the physios and the masseurs and all that. Starting straight away as soon as the game's finished. And the chairman's walked in, Mohammed Al-Fayed, and then we see a guy who's behind him, and he's throwing rose petals on the floor. And as the chairman goes past, he starts walking towards where he thinks we are in the dressing room area. and goes past the door to the wet area and quickly realises we're all in there. So he basically takes a step back, and this guy's throwing rose petals on the floor behind him. And Mohammed pops his head into the wet room and says, "Lads, hide your cocks, Michael's in." And then Michael Jackson walked in behind him. But obviously, since watching the shows later on about Michael Jackson, I don't think we were of any interest in it. It was probably the Ball Boys. So, allegedly. So yeah, that was a weird one. But he'd done some unbelievable things. Like after a year, me being there, my wife at the time, she started. We got put in a clubhouse in a place called Barnes, beautiful part of West London, which were the old Harrods warehouses that the chairman had converted into houses and apartments and all that. It was a stunning location, looking on the River Thames. The houses were amazing, the properties, 24-hour security, underground car parking, swimming pools, gymnasiums, you name it, it's got a lot. But it was right in the city of London, so when I was going out to train, my wife at the time, we didn't have Bobby, we just had the two oldest ones, and they were babies, like nursery school ages. And my wife's obviously from the northeast. She's used to having, you know, familiar people around her where we lived, going round for a coffee or a cuppa, and vice versa, our neighbours doing that. And this wasn't the case in London, so she quickly became a bit homesick. So she left after a year. Then I had a year living in an apartment on the same side on my own, and then commuting the odd weekend back and forth stuff. And then I was in Euro Disney. We had a manager, Jean Tigan, our French manager, very well known French player, very highly thought of. And I was in Euro Disney one summer, and he was there with his children. And we sat down in the bar one night before dinner, and he said, "Listen, the chairman wants you to sign a new contract. I want you to. You know, we need to think about it." He says, "But one of the terms is, you know, to get your family back down into London so we can get you settled and, you know, everything can be right. You know, it's not great that, even though it hasn't affected your football, it's not great that you're having to travel, do quite a bit of travelling back up to the northeast to see the family, etc." So he basically passed us over like a beer mat like that. It was like a bit of tissue or something. And he passed us it over like that across the table, and the kids were there, and his kids were there, and my wife at the time, and his partner. And I looked at it like that, and I was like, "Oh, is this the chairman's number?" And he says, No, you daft fucker, that's just new salary." And I said to the wife, "You're fucking coming back to London." And we actually moved into the outskirts of London, to a place, Surrey, a place called Kingswood, and we ended up spending six years there. Beautiful part of the world, and yeah, that's where we lived in. But part of that, when it was happening, the two kids were school years, so we found them a school, we found a house, we found a school, went to see the headmistress. The school was brilliant in Epsom and Ewell, a little village on the outskirts of where we lived, and you know, the school was perfect. I had the meeting, and the headmistress said, "Lee, Mr. and Mrs. Clark, you know, great to have you here. Well, unfortunately, we haven't got any places available for the children, but we'll put you on a waiting list." So this was a bit of a problem, to be honest. So a couple of weeks, about a week or so later, I was at the training ground, and the chairman would always have some of his people from Harrods at the training ground doing upgrades, putting new carpets down or decorating or whatever, you know, obsessed with everything being perfect. And his right-hand man was there, and he says, "Oh, Lee, the chairman's asking how things are going with the move and about the new contract." I says, "Well, everything's agreed, David. The only thing, I found a house, we found a school, but there's no places." So I told him the school didn't think anything more of it, and then 24 hours later I get a phone call from the headmistress of the school asking if me and my wife could go back. We went back and she said, we found 2 places for your children. And as I was just, obviously said, oh, delighted with that. And as I was just about to leave her office, she said, can you just pass my thanks on to your owner, Mr. Al-Fayed, for giving us the 2 Harrods hampers for our summer fair. And by the way, Harrods hampers aren't like a couple of £100, you're talking thousands of pounds. You know, champagne and all these different queer legs, for fuck's sake. I mean, I only knew it was scrambled or fried. And then also he's donated £30,000 to the redevelopment of the new school gym. So this was something he didn't have to do. It wasn't that I'd asked for it. This was him doing this off his own thought. I mean, I used to say it a few years ago when I'd done these gigs. I didn't think Mike Ashley would be doing that for any of his players. I wouldn't even have done it for any of his fucking managers, never mind his players. So, yeah, they're the good parts. I mean, there was another one, obviously, it was in Harrods one afternoon. It was my birthday. I was sitting in the Grand Restaurant, me, my wife, the 2 children, and he came down and he was always on for the crack, and he was... he sat down, he's like, why have the champagne? I says, oh, it's my birthday, Chairman. And he says, oh, that's great. And he says, oh, my wife was a brunette. And he says, last time you were in, you had a blonde with you. How are you with a brunette? I was like, no, don't even go there. Don't even go there, like. Because that new contract, you just thought, oh, this is going up in fucking smoke. She'll be taking the lot. And, no, so what he done, he's like, we had the staff who have had the restaurant and champagne on the house all day, and I was like, oh, Chairman, listen, I've got my car, can I just have a couple of glasses? He's like, no, leave that with me, I'll get your car back to Surrey for you with the drivers, I'll get you driven back as well. He says, we'll take the kids off, look after them, so you and the wife can just enjoy a good afternoon. And they came back a couple of hours later with all these Harrods bags, and must have basically demolished the toy department there. Don't know if you've ever been, but it's ridiculous. A couple of weeks later, I'm putting the kids in their car seats in the back of the car, and my oldest son, Jack, he was, as we started driving off, he said, where we're going, Dad? I says, oh, we're going into Harrods again. He says, oh, is Mr. Al-Fayed going to be there? I says, I fucking hope so. So yeah, good times, happy days. I never ever thought, when I played in London for Newcastle, when I used to go for a walk before we played the match in the morning of the game, I used to always find London huge, and it was obviously something I could never be able to handle, being from the northeast. So when I moved there, it was a bit of a surprise, but I ended up spending 7 years there and absolutely loved it. So, but the people like that made it. You've got to remember, you know, the day I signed for the club, there was a supporters group who'd been set up 5 years previous to the day that I was signing, that were set up because 5 years to the day I signed, they finished 91st out of 92 clubs in the Football League. Mm-hmm. And there you are 5 years later, that you're challenging to go into the Premier League and then get the club into Europe. So, you know, we took one of the smaller London clubs into places where people didn't believe they could go to.
Mm-hmm. You came back to Newcastle, so tell us how that happened, and what was it like to come back to, you know, to your hometown club?
Well, how it happened, I was myself, Edwin van der Sar and Andy Cole were the 3, because obviously I was the captain of the club. We were the 3 highest earners at the club, and the chairman, well, how he done things, it fell out of love a little bit with football, and he wasn't investing as much as he wanted to, what he had previously. So he was cutting a bit of cost. So with us being the 3 highest earners, we were all put up for sale. My contract wasn't being renewed. Edwin went to Man United, Coley went to Manchester City. And, you know, it was through Terry McDermott, a great friend of mine, through the first time he was working under Graham Souness as one of his assistants. And I was out of contract, the pre-season was starting. He said, why don't you just come up and do some football training with us? And so I I came up and I'd done some training. After about 10 days, Graham Souness got us in and said, listen, I'd like to offer you a contract. It'll be, obviously, he knew I was trying to get into the coaching. It'll be with, you know, helping with running the reserve team and staying fit, and if I was ever needed in an emergency to play for the first team. There was a fair few emergencies because I played 30 fucking games that season. So I was called out more than the fucking fire brigade. And so yeah, it was great for me because now I had the 3 kids and they could see, because they'd never really, even though they were there, they were young, they'd never had the opportunity to see us play for Newcastle. So I had the 3 kids who had that opportunity to see us playing for the club that they support, the club I love and supported. And it was a great way to end off my playing career. I stopped playing at the club I love and where it had all started.
Mm. You mentioned Mike Ashley there, and obviously, you know, we can't stand the bloke, but you ended up, you know, doing a little bit, you know, you're taking your coaching badges, you ended up, you know, helping in those early days. What was he like as somebody who, you know, you had to deal with it on a football basis?
I mean, you see, like with the coaching, it was like, it didn't really interfere. I mean, the only time that something tried to happen was when I was leaving Glenn Roder, the great Glenn Roder. I was just to go to Norwich with him as assistant manager, and I spoke. Sam Allardyce was the manager at the time, and I'd said to Sam I was going to go and leave because I had my own aspirations of becoming a manager, and I was getting offered the chance to go up the coaching ladder as an assistant in a good club like Norwich. And Chris Mort was the chairman at the time. Chris called us and said, listen, Mike, spoke to Mike, he doesn't really want you to go, Sam doesn't want you to go, will you come in and head up the academy? I was reserve team manager, and if you head up the academy you're the boss, and we'll give you a big budget to go and spend on the best kids in the country and also around the world. And I did think about it for a while, but something I've always fell back on is I didn't ever believe I was set up as a coach or a manager to work with the youngsters in terms of academy, because obviously you've got your different rules and regulations and how you deal with them, and obviously the safeguarding of the children and this, that and the other, and I didn't feel that was right for me, even though I was half tempted by being able to grab something like that and put my own stamp on it, which I think I could have done a better job than what they've done with it since then, and what they're still doing with it now. I don't think it's working to its full capabilities, without a doubt. So yeah, it was just because I felt I was more suited to the senior men's game, to be honest, rather than the youngsters.
You talk about being in management. Got to mention that spell at Huddersfield. Amazing, that record that you hold. And for those of the people in here who don't know the record, do you want to tell them what you did?
Yeah, I'm still the holder of the longest unbeaten record in the English Football League, which is 43 league games. Brian Clough, the late great Brian Clough had 42, and then I beat it 43. I think I would have probably went on to have a bigger, longer run. Unfortunately, the first game I lost was a game where I can honestly say I didn't really have a lot of focus on the game. I wasn't really bothered about the result, and I don't apologise for that. It was the game I lost was a Monday night at Charlton Athletic, and it was the day after I'd got the horrific news of my good friend and ex-teammate Gary Speed taking his own life the day before, as I was travelling to London with the team. So that game paled into insignificance for me, because I just didn't, I wasn't bothered about that football match at all. The only time that I can really say that. So that was the game that brought the winning unbeaten run to an end, and I've got no issues with and no doubts for the reasons why. I wasn't my usual focused self with the team. I was very distant. I didn't put a lot of time into the analysis of the opponent or my talk with the players. It was actually live on Sky, so if you remember, there was obviously a minute's silence, and I was visibly an emotional wreck that day. So, yeah, that was unfortunate. But put it into perspective about football and life. So, yeah, something so special. It come to an abrupt halt because of something so sad. So that was part of that. But still a great. I was back there on Saturday. First time I've been back to Huddersfield for a long time. A big relegation battle with another of my old clubs, Birmingham. They played out a 1-1 draw, which was not really good for either team. Huddersfield went down basically last Saturday, and Birmingham could go down this Saturday if the results don't go for them. So yeah, a tough one when you've got two of your former clubs that you have a lot of respect and love for. The people there were great, and they could be going out the league. So it's turned into a bit fucking doom and gloom, hasn't it?
Let's talk about the T-shirt incident. It's a question everybody wants to know. What was the story behind it, the SMB T-shirt?
So Newcastle obviously got to the final, and asked Peter Reid, the manager, if I was allowed to go, and he was like, yeah, but make sure you don't wear any club colours. And I didn't. And yeah, when I got out of the black cab at a pub in Baker Street run by a Geordie guy, as I got out of there, these guys that I knew, lads, they just whipped the T-shirt on, and then there wasn't even camera phones then, it was just the old disposable ones, wasn't it?
Wind on.
They were just flashing for fun, and I remember one of my mates, as we went to the bar, said, fuck me, that could come back and bite you on the bum, and I was like, do you reckon? And obviously a couple of weeks later I did, so...
Couldn't have written up better.
No.
Well, no, I already had the move to Fulham lined up, so it was easy.
Actually, there is a good story about you signing for Sunderland, although none of us wanted you to do it. The contract negotiations were quite interesting.
Yeah, so I decided... What had happened is Kenny came in and I went on a good run. I was playing well, and then this week we've had Villa on the Saturday, we had Charlton in the replay of the FA Cup, and then we had Southampton away, and in each game I scored and we got positive results. So not only was I playing well, I was adding goals and I was on a consistent run. Then the following week after these 3 games we had a cup tie. And I'll just tell you what I think of Peter, so it's nothing about him, but Peter was coming back fit. Kenny called us in before the game and said, wee man, listen, I'm leaving you out, Peter's back. And I just thought to myself, well, if I'm playing this well and I'm not going to always be guaranteed a place in the team, it's going to be tough. So I decided that end of that season I was going to leave. The club had offered us a new 5-year contract, but it was nothing to do with anything like that. It was just playing time. So I went and spoke to about 7 or 8 clubs, both Glasgow Giants, Rangers and Celtic. As I said, Derby County, Jim Smith was manager, Man City, Frank Clark, Aston Villa, Brian Little, Marseille in France. None of them spoke Geordie, so I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on when I went to speak to them. And then the last club out of courtesy was Sunderland, and I've done it because Paul Bracewell, my old mentor and mate from Newcastle, was assistant manager to Peter Reid. So I remember him organising the meeting place. Wasn't it a football club or like anything like the other clubs had? He took us to a champagne bar in Manchester, and as I went into the meeting, I said to him, listen, there's fucking no chance I'm signing for you, I'm just coming out of courtesy. 3.5, 4 hours late, after 5 or 6 bottles of pink champagne, I've signed a 5-year contract. I was that pissed. The Sunderland and my agent had organised a private jet to Manchester from Newcastle just for me, to fly me from Newcastle to Manchester, back from Manchester to Newcastle, private jet. I was that pissed they weren't going to let us on it. and until my agent had to step in and say he's the only one on the plane. It's actually for him. So, and yeah. And what else? So that was on the Friday. We'd agreed to do the press conference to announce it on the Monday. I went to Wynyard on the Saturday with my mates to play golf. While I was golfing, I get a phone call. It's Glenn Hoddle, England manager. He said that he's announcing his squad on the Monday morning for the Torn War 1997, the tournament before the World Cup. And he was including me in the squad. So I quickly rang my agent and said to him, have we got any clauses in the contract for me getting international caps and getting in the squad? He says, we have, but why? He says, Glenn Hoddle's just been on, he's announced the squad Monday in a minute. He says, leave it with us, I'll speak to Bob Murray. So he comes back, he says, I've got the bonuses higher and for different versions, so it's just basically for getting in the squad. Oh, it's playing up this mic. And so on the Monday I go to do the press conference. First of all I walks in, it was at Roker Park, but I never ever played there for Sunderland. It was the Stadium of Light was getting built, but it wasn't ready to have the press conference there, so we done it at Roker Park. I first goes in, I had a pinstripe suit on, black on my ties, where they really said, are you fucking joking? You're wearing a black and white fucking suit, man. And I said, he says, is there anything that's not fucking black and white with you? And I says, what's the matter? It's nice, I bought this in fucking Marbella, what's the matter with you? And it was with me dad, right? And then we does the press conference, and we goes back to his office, and Sky Sports News is on, and the first yellow ticker breaking news, Sunderland break that transfer record to buy Lee Clark from Newcastle United. Well, 10 minutes later, there's another fucking yellow ticker, breaking news. Sunderland's new signing, Lee Clark, included in the England squad. Bob Murray's sitting there, Peter Reid's there, I'm here, my dad's there, my agent's there. Bob Murray and Reedy are just glaring us, and they just both said at the same time, you little fucker, you knew about that. Because the first fucking pay packet was ridiculous with all the bonuses for getting in the England squad and all that. So I took all that fucking money off them.
Alright, we're going to open it up to the floor, so if you've got any questions, stick your hand up and we'll try and get through as many as we can. First man there in the corner, go on.
Why did Bobby got the bind of us?
I take that as Liverpool.
Yes.
Listen, I was never involved. In terms of, I was working overseas. I got a message from his mum to say that things were, he wasn't enjoying his football like he was. He wasn't feeling like he was getting developed like he should be. He questions a lot. He's very mature for a young lad, and he understands what he wants. So he actually held a meeting with the academy staff. I was involved on a Zoom call. I was in Egypt at the time, and Bobby spoke well. He asked them for answers of what were going on. Because what had happened, you know, you've got to realise he was 14 years of age, and then he was getting picked to play in the under-18s. And for some reason that all changed. He hadn't hit a bad run of form, he was still doing well. But as I said, he felt like his development wasn't coming on like he wanted to. And when they didn't give him the answers he wanted in the meeting, he said, well, he felt it was probably time for him to move on. And I couldn't believe how quickly they agreed a fee with various different clubs. At one stage it looked like he was nailed on to go to Borussia Dortmund because he's very big friends with Jude and Joe Bellingham, because my last signing for Birmingham was Jude Bellingham. I went to his house to meet him and his parents to convince him to come to Birmingham rather than Villa. And Job is Bobby's age. They were in the same academy team at Birmingham City, and then Jude was a couple of years older. And I think it was Jude that was pushing Dortmund to Bobby. But what happened then was you had Brexit, so Bobby wasn't allowed to go. At the age of 16, he couldn't go and work overseas, so that blocked it over the move to Dortmund. And then another 4 or 5 British clubs agreed fees with Newcastle like that. I couldn't believe how quick, because I actually said to him and his mum that it could be a drawn out process. I thought Newcastle would have held out, asked for crazy money, then would have went to a tribunal. They didn't. They took quite a low fee for him, which is worked out with the add-ons at only $1.5 million. In today's terms, it's nothing. And you know, but he went to Liverpool, and what they had done over 2 days to convince him to go, they had 40-50 match reports on him. They had footage over 2 hours of him. They've watched him, and what basically Jurgen said to him is what's been proved right. We're not signing you to make the under-18s win the FA Youth Cup. We're not signing you to make the under-21s win the under-21 league. We're signing you because we believe you're a Liverpool first-team footballer, and there'll be if you show the potential that we believe you've got, you will get in the team. And that's what happened. He made his debut at 17. This season, he's made his debut in Europe. He's made his full debut in the Premier League. He's the third youngest goal scorer in Europe for Liverpool Football Club. And you're talking about one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's played over 20 games, various different roles this year. Unfortunately, his season's over now. He's got a back injury, which was confirmed 2 days ago. But be ready for the next season. So,
I didn't rub it in.
no, I'm not. It's like when people say to us, Mike Ashley cashed in. It's nothing to do with Mike. It was nothing to do with Mike Ashley. There's people. I reckon I know. I'm his father, I know. And by the way, there's no doubt in that. If you see his face, he's definitely mine. Okay, well.
Oh,
I'd love to see it, but I don't know.
You can run his contract, man. Run his contract.
Is it in his blood?
He loves Newcastle just like his dad. I don't know how many fathers and sons have played for the club. But let's see. I think he'd been wanting to up his medal collection, then he might come back, the little fucker.
Next question.
Should have got him in a head.
So you said before, the 96, well, when we lost the Premier League, Dave Batty replaced you. I think it's because we tried to get Asprilla in the team.
Well, there's various different reasons. People talk about Tino coming in, people talk about David Batty coming in, people talk about we didn't have the nous like Man United, we didn't have the experience. There's all kinds of things. The reality was we lost form at the wrong time. You think the game that changed it was the Man United at St James's when we totally dominated them for an hour. Peter Schmeichel played one of his best ever games for Man U to keep it at 0-0, and then I think was it Cantona scored the goal.
Yeah.
And if you remember the end that season, we would play or they would play on separate days. We'd both be live on television, and all I can remember is watching Man U. They weren't playing particularly well, but Schmeichel and Cantona were unbelievable.
1-0.
Schmeichel would be on fire at one end, Cantona at the other, and they went and done the business, and unfortunately we didn't. And as I say,
but then Asprilla went and got sent off.
that was before though. That was the Man City game, wasn't it? The 3-3.
Yeah.
So listen, if you went round every single person in this room, you wouldn't get obviously a different view of every person, but you would get about 5 or 6 different reasons to what they thought was the reason that we didn't do it, and any of them could be valid. You know, with Tino coming into the team, with David Batty coming into the team, with us not having enough players who'd been there, seen it, done it. Peter had won a title at Liverpool. I'm not even sure who else.
That was it.
I think that was it. We only had Peter who had who done it, been and seen and done it. That could have counted. We don't know. We just went on that run. which is the worst time to go on that run, isn't it? It's
well, it is, but what I would say is don't you put yourself down, because when Barry came into the team and you came out, it wasn't just because of that, it was because of everything else.
oh yeah, listen, there's various different factors, and we can all say different things, but you know, ultimately we've all got to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Did they not win 13 or 14 games, something like that? They did.
They went on a great run. They went on a run that Man United were capable of. Man United done then what Man City do now.
Yeah.
You know, you never. If people talked about Man City about winning the league and what they might have to do, they might have to. I think it was like about they might have to win 10 games on the spin at the time. Well, Man City are easily capable of winning 10 games on the spin, which that Man United team were of that era as well. So that's. Listen, there's loads of reasons why it could happen. Honestly.
Hey,
Okay.
He says, did you not put yourself doing? You did, didn't you? You signed for the fucking Mackhams.
Yes, mate. Yeah, go for it.
Talk about people leaving the club, the likes of Birdland, all the rest of the stuff. What was the dressing room like when Andy Cole left?
Oh, great question. Good
Great
question.
question. In shock. I was more in shock because he was meant to fucking pick us up that morning and take us to training. It was his turn to fucking do the driving because we used to live opposite each other in Gosforth, so we alternated the driving and the training, and it was his fucking turn. And I thought I was going to get fined. I thought, I was knocking on his door, banging on the door, he's not there. I thought, fuck this, I'm going. He can get fined if he wants. And then he rang his, and just as I pulled into the training ground in Durham and said, listen, sorry I couldn't get in touch, I had to keep it top secret, but I've just signed a Man U. And you were in shock, but then you always had this thought, well, Kevin, the gaffer, he's done it before. You know, we talked about David Kelly. David was like terrific, he was a brilliant player, he was a crowd favourite. He moved David on, brought Peter in, so you're always thinking. And when I think back now, there was an instance, we were in the old Milburn reception because we had loads of time to kill and all that, and you know, thankfully, God rest. Thankfully for me, I was never into going into bookies or all that or whatever. I never fucking followed Keith Gillespie, you know. Now like that. Me and Coley were in the reception one afternoon, just messing around, and Kevin and Terry Mack came out of Kevin's office. He said, "What you two up to?" He says, "Oh no, Cap, I'll just hang around, you know. Come with us." He got coats. Well, I'm called, get your coats. Took in the car with him and Terry Mack. We ended up going down to Anfield and watching a game, Liverpool versus QPR. After about 15 minutes, Kevin said to me and Curly, "You play with him?" Les Ferdinand. And we both said, "Oh, fucking hell, definitely." Well, I got the chance to, and Curly didn't. He got fucked off before Les came in. But Kevin was always, do you know what I mean? That was him then, deciding Ferdinand's the next one on the conveyor belt. I'm going to keep upgrading the team. And I've done a lot of these as well with Keith. I'm very good friends with Keith, obviously. A little bit joke there about the bet and stuff. But that deal would have never happened if Keith wasn't involved coming this way.
Yeah.
So that was important as well, signing a young player like that. So one, yes, we're in shock, but two, we weren't surprised and we weren't worried because we always felt Kevin always had something else up his sleeve in terms of replacing people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question. Yes, mate.
What's your best 11 for Newcastle?
Ooh, Jesus. Oh, well, man, it's 10 to 10, man. Fucking hell. Best 11 that I've played with.
Yes.
Right. So let's write this down as I'm doing it because I'm going to upset people here probably. Obviously, Shea.
No, Pavel.
Pab, great guy, great man. Shea, but Shea's different. T-shirt, top class, son. Love that.
Yeah, I'll hold that for you.
And I'm thinking about the ones I've played with. Left back has to be Bez. John Beresford. Do you never fucking shut up? Take this fucker's batteries and play.
Bono's got to be.
Right back. Well,
Got to be.
It's got to be me pal Watto. He's my best
Got to
pal.
be. It's got to be.
Venas was good, but Watto.
Aye.
John Anderson, hard as fuck. I used to have to make his cutters.
Perfectly.
I did. Wouldn't want to fucking boot up the arse off fucking Ando, I know that. Centre backs. No. Not taken. Not taken. Albert. Albert and Beezy, aye, Peacock. Poor bastard was left on his own fucking 9 times out of 10. The only defender I had. Midfield. Solano. Didn't need a left foot because outside of his right foot was that fucking good. Rob Lee.
Definitely.
Speedo.
David.
Genola. For 6 months, the best player I'd ever played with. Unbelievable. Fuck me. How am I getting all these attackers in? Beardsley.
There you go.
And Shearer. And the bench should be Cole.
You missed your salute.
Ferdinand. No. I fucking Frank Clark. Cole, Ferdinand. Gillespie. I'm naming 10 subs, by the way. I changed the fucking rules. Gillespie. Fucking hell. Who else? Tino. Fucking hell. Who else? Howie.
Just because you've got these new defenders.
Aye, got me. Well, I just put Tino at centre half, man. Just can't shit or bust. We're going to win 6-5, man. We're not going for a 0-0. Fuck Howie. Fuck him.
What about Papa Vassalo?
No, not Nicky. Who do you recommend, son?
Oh no, I've got a question.
Alright, sorry. Cool. Help us with some subs. Cole, Ferdinand, Gillespie, Tino.
Pav.
Well, she was in the team. Kelly. I put David Kelly in there. I'm not that fucking old. I didn't play with David Mack. Killer. No, I need defenders on the bench. I only need attackers, man. I've got to go and win the game if I'm making subs. Mickey Quinn. I never played with fucking Superback. Who said that?
Johnny Newman.
You've done well there, mate.
Hey, that Kevin's got a right. McLean's got to be on the bench.
Need defenders. If I'm making subs, it's the fucking win.
Scott Sellers.
Scott Sellers, what a player. Wonder the left foot.
Kevin Sheedy.
France car. He's starting. He's captain.
Sheedy.
Foxy. Fucking hell.
Is he envelope for you?
That's it, I've got 10 strikers on the bench. Great question. Where's he?
He's gone to the toilet. We'll give him that. We'll give him that. We'll give him that.
Spent that long looking at the fucking team.
There you are. That's for you. You can have that.
Well done, son.
Right.
Hey, it should have been like that. I was at Birmingham. When I was Birmingham City manager, the owner was called Carson Young from Hong Kong. I took the job on July the 1st. On July 11th, he got put under house arrest. So all his assets got frozen. So went from being one of the richest clubs in the championship to fucking having nout.
Yeah.
But what he used to do on a Friday, he used to send via fucking email or fax the team he wanted us to pick to be paid. So she'd come in on a Friday afternoon and give us his team. Fucking he put Stan Lazaridis in the team 4 games on the run. The fucker wasn't even at the club anymore.
I'm thinking, who's this fucking Lazaridis? And Rita, me PA, she said, oh, Lee, that's Stan. He left about 3 years ago. I'm like, fucking hell, he's got him in the team.
Okay, he's had his hand up a while. Go on, son.
So, like, about like the current state of Newcastle, like the team now, obviously, like, there's been like, obviously, like the players like Isaac and that coming and Gordon and that, but like, from like, I'd say probably last season, the end of the season when Eddie got relegated, that Eddie Howe saved is that you've probably seen the likes of like Kraft and Murphy and that start to get gradually a bit better in the team. And do you think that's down to like Eddie Howe, or do you think that's down to like the thing of the new owners coming in?
No, I think since Eddie's been brought in, his recruitment's been that good. It's been very similar to Kevin. He recruited really well in the first January window when they needed players to keep them in the Premier League. So that group of players were brought in to do a specific job, and they've done it very well. And what he's done since, he's built on that, and what he's done is he's got us every window. He's improved the squad window on window, and he's got us challenging in various different ways.
So like obviously like I remember it was like the players before, obviously under Ashley, there was no like obviously like fight from them, but obviously now the likes of Murphy and that are starting to show that fight. Do you think that's down to the change?
Has he made the older players better?
I think the new ownership and the new management team have allowed those players to flourish now. You've got to understand, when you're working under a regime where finishing 4th bottom is their ambition, never upgrading the team, never upgrading the squad, it can deflate you as a player. When you're a proper player and you trust in yourself and you trust your ability, like I've been talking about what Keegan done, when they bring good players in, it brings the best out of you. When you want to be sitting in that dressing room, and either side of you want a top player there, because you know they're going to help you get results. And that's what it's about in football. It's a team game. It's getting players that you know are going to make you better, going to be having you challenging at the right end of the league, going to be trying to get you into Europe. Unfortunately, this manager has shown he puts out his strongest team in cup competitions. We've just had horrendous draws where we keep getting Man City all the time, and it proves difficult. But what I think, your question is absolutely spot on. They have felt the benefit, and some of them players have started to flourish now who were not really performing or felt that because of the lack of ambition by the club, that they not just wanted them to finish 4th bottom, but also by the quality of player that wasn't being brought in.
Like Murphy, like last season against Spurs at home, scoring.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, without doubt.
Okay, question at the back.
Just for there was unfortunate, at least one unfortunate India who was supporting a certain team, got 200 miles away from the must be at least 1 or 2 positive experiences with that club that you can convey just to make them feel a little bit better.
The 2 years I had playing for the football club were fantastic. I played for a great manager, loved him to bits. I played with a great group of lads, and I thoroughly enjoyed the football side of it. You know, it was successful for me personally, but also for the club. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the football side, absolutely brilliant. It was always going to be tough because everyone knew. I had to hit the ground running because all the Sunderland fans knew I was a black and white. I supported the club, etc. So I had to hit the ground running, and thankfully I did, because it could easily, turn on us. But as I said, football-wise, I still keep in touch with Reedy. If I took him out, well, we're meant to go out for lunch that week, And we did, but I ended up having to fucking pay again, but that's another thing.
That's Martin's fate.
I saw a certain programme a couple of weeks ago with some little lads from Newcastle. One of them reacted quite badly to being asked to put on one of those scarves and one of those tops. How did you feel the first time you had to put the red and white on?
Well, all I used to do to make sure that was fine, I used to just look at the online banking and just see my
Right. Last question goes to me. I want to know who cut Brian Kilclane's hair.
Steve, you know, I would love to tell this story, but this could be worth thousands of pounds to me. I could make a lot of money selling this to the press and the media, this story. So I'm not going to divulge any names. All I'll say, we got blamed. This is how it happened. We went to... We got... Will you fucking shut up? Fucking hell. Honestly. Is that your fella? Fucking hell. Me.
What about the Jigsaw nickname?
Well, a Jigsaw nickname, because if for people who don't know, was given to us by Paul Bracewell and Barry Venison, who scored about 3 goals in 3,000 games between the two of them. And they said, because I used to have a little spell where I went to pieces in the box. But they never used to say that to us, because the pair of old bastards never used to say it.
What about the fish in the car?
That's Gaza, that's not me. And that was a Gaza story. I think you got the wrong ones mixed up. Aye, wrong person.
So the Kilclane story.
The Kilclane story is, we went to Iron Apple to celebrate the promotion winning campaign. Me, Steve Watson, Alan Thompson went into the square, a few drinks one afternoon. We came back and all the lads, senior lads were there, bit worse for wear, and we seen a wine glass and it was just full of hair. And we looked at that, and Derek Fazackley was the coach, he was the senior person on the trip, and a few of the senior lads, and we said, what's that? And they said, oh, someone's cut Killer's hair. And they said to me, Watto and Tomo, it was you three, you better fuck off. And like idiots, we start running. And after about half a mile or something, I went, whoa, stop. I said, lads, why we're running? They said, well, fucking, we've cut Killer's hair. I said, well, we fucking haven't. We've been in the square. I says, it's fucking nothing to do with us. So the three were Einsteins were like, you're right. All right, let's get back. So they started walking back and went back in. We went, yeah, it wasn't fucking us, by the way. The senior lads were like, what wasn't you? We never cut his hair. We said, oh, only when you knew that. So I know who done it, and he hit the deck a few times, I've got to see. I can't divulge it, sorry, honestly.
Oh, brilliant.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for tonight. Put your hands together for one of the main men in Newcastle United, as Lee Clark. And well done, Andrew, and all of you lads for organising tonight. Keep your applause going for them, and the bar staff as well. We'll be back again in the summer with Rob Lee. See you then. Well done, mate.